of Marketing Manager for Tech on Purpose and the host of this series, Who's in Your Cloud? 21 Steps to Secure, Reliable, Trusted Technology. And this is episode 16, Server Backups in BCDR. To see more of me and my cybercrime fighting partner, Matt Tankersley, check out all of our previous episodes on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or Spotify. And if you're not already getting episodes delivered straight to your inbox, what are you waiting for? Sign up at techonpurpose.net/blog and sign up for our free cybersecurity risk assessment at who'sinyour.cloud. Server backups in BCDR, let's get into it. If you're no cyber expert like me, the first question you're probably asking yourself is, what the heck is BCDR and why does this girl keep saying it like she knows what we're talking about? Well, BCDR stands for Business Continuity and Disaster Recovery. See, Matt, I'm capable of learning a thing or two around.
Nice job.
So it turns out server backups and BCDR tools and processes are operational imperatives to ensure simple, rapid, secure data and system restorations. There are countless ways to approach and discuss these topics, starting with questions like, how long could your company afford to operate without access to critical data or systems? Should set the appropriate foundation for all that follows. Selecting and employing the right BCDR strategy, tools, and processes are core to operational recovery in the event of data loss or system outages, and will help to speed up recovery time for days or weeks to even just minutes or hours. In today's episode, our cast of cyber experts will shed a light on a thing or two about server backups in BCDR and what solutions are out there in the marketplace. So let's meet our cast of sassy and savvy characters for today. Back with us again is VIP cast member Patrick Chin, Solutions Engineer for Intelisys. It's been a while since we've seen you, Patrick, but glad to see you're up and at 'em again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure, and it's a lot of fun with these videos. So really appreciate you guys inviting me back.
Explain to the audience a little bit more about who you are and what you do at Intelisys.
Yeah. So Intelisys, for those that maybe haven't watched some of the awesome previous episodes, we are a managed services distributor. So we sell a variety of different things. BCDR happens to be one of those solutions. My role at Intelisys is to be an agnostic engineer where we can help consult, help identify the requirements for the customers, what their use cases are, maybe the challenges they're trying to face, and then we align the right suppliers of technology solutions alongside with Matt and Lauren to make sure that the customer gets what they need.
Fresh off paternity leave, back again on the vlog is Jason Price, Channel Development Manager from Datto. Jason, once again, congratulations on your little one.
Oh, thank you. Far too kind.
Oh no, of course.
I missed paternity leave, but this is like an awesome way to return to do this to do this video and show. So thanks for having me.
Will Julius be making an appearance today?
I don't know. I hear him upstairs.
Well, if he has to come in, tell him to bring it on in. Well, tell the audience a little bit more about who you are and what you do at Datto.
So Jason Price, I've been at Datto for about 8 years. I'm what's called a channel development manager. So essentially I do two things, right? I help my MSP partners better educate and position BCDR amongst the whole other host of tools to the end users. So that's one thing I do. The other thing I do is I actually talk to end users, right? And by end users, it's the small and medium-sized businesses out there, the everyday people. And I want to share what ransomware is. I want to share, the different ways that people are accessing systems and things of that nature, right? Because knowledge is power. The more you know, the better you can protect against those things, right? So my job essentially is just educating people.
And introducing a totally new partner to Tech on Purpose, and obviously a new cast member, we have Siggy Brody from Opti9. So introduce yourself and tell us what you do for Opti9.
Well, thanks for having me. This looks like a fun group, a lot of positive fun and energy, much better than the boring other podcasts that I've done. So I
try to bring a little flair here.
Yeah, I could already tell it's going to be fun, especially for a topic as disaster recovery. But so I'm the CTO at Opti9. I've been really kind of in this role or a similar role for over 20 years. I'm half embarrassed to admit that, but for a very long time. And what I do is really I just sort of shape the product roadmap and where our services are going. Opti9 is a managed cloud provider, and so we really provide bespoke and customized solutions, be it private cloud, public cloud, or BCDR. And that's really our bread and butter. And we really take ownership and accountability of those solutions for our customers and kind of guide them through the strategy. It's not just here's your login and password, good luck. It's really about taking ownership of that strategy and ensuring they have what they need.
Well, I'm excited to start working with you guys. I know this is my first interaction, but I've heard very good things from the team. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
It's a little bit of baptism by fire. You're new to the company and now we're throwing you into the vlog, but we promise it's fun. And you probably already know him, my partner in crime, my boss, the head honcho, Matt Tankersley, founder and CEO of TechOnPurpose. Matt, thanks for being here. Not like you have a choice, but thank you anyways. I appreciate it.
Lauren, thank you. Thanks for making it feel like it's a choice. That means a lot, right?
You're welcome. I try.
Yeah. And listen, I want to welcome all of our cyber expert cast today. And you guys are a powerful team. I love, as I was listening to the introductions, the 360-degree perspective that you guys are bringing to the conversation today. Because, you got people that are actually developing products to do the things that we're talking about today. You get people that strategize and help to develop those products, and then people that actually deliver that as a managed service in partnership with TechOnPurpose. So really excited for the cast that you pulled together, Lauren. Great job. And also, Lauren, you've had a challenging week, and I want to take a moment to recognize your impressive resilience and survival skills. And say thanks for doing all you do to pull this program together and keep all us cats herded on time and on top.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you.
Lauren's a rock star. 100%.
She is. Episode 16. Can you believe we made it this far? It's amazing. I feel like we haven't discussed enough the critical need for risk assessment as a priority. I just want to throw this on the front end, right? And how this helps us and you and our listeners to clearly identify the critical and high risk areas that need to be addressed promptly, right? And as you mentioned, our listeners can sign up for that free risk assessment by visiting who'sinyour.cloud. That's a landing page we have out there for you to learn more and get signed up. And so today's topic, server backups and BCDR. And, for me, this is an all too common missing component I see in a lot of organizational IT stacks, which is intriguing. We just trust and believe that our servers are always going to stay up and our data is not going to go anywhere. And unfortunately, that's not everybody, but I do see it more than I'd like to see. And so what does this even have to do with cybersecurity, right? This is a cybersecurity story, and we're talking about data recovery and backup. Well, most folks probably know that those are pretty well entwined, but Lauren, I say we turn it over to our real cyber experts and let's learn some more.
Patrick, we're going to go to you first. So in your experience, why are server backups in BCDR important? Feel free to share any statistics or stories, probably horror stories, if you have anything that comes to mind.
There's a lot of statistics, and I think the one that comes to mind that I think is probably the scariest is the fact that I remember reading that 90% of all companies that don't have a BCDR solution in place, okay, they typically go out of business within 12 months, okay, after a major impact. I think that speaks for itself, right? And these days with how much ransomware is proliferating, how much data, with all the digital transformation that's been happening, across all the organizations, SMB all the way to enterprise, the digital data itself, that's the lifeblood of any organization. And if all of a sudden you're unable to access it, your company is effectively crippled, right? Here's what I'll also say too. I know today is primarily about server backups and server DR. But what I want us to also keep in mind is there's also a difference between business continuity and this disaster recovery. And I'm hoping we'll be able to get into that because they're actually very, very different things, and they both come together very, very well to help keep a company afloat.
Perfect. Thanks, Patrick. Jason, we'll go over to you next. What are your thoughts?
So first and foremost, I think server backups are the most important thing you can do, right? However, it's typically the last thing you want to have to actually utilize, right? There's so much other steps, right? You want to make sure you have the right firewalls. You want to make sure people are educated. They're not clicking on random things, right? You want to make sure that your systems stay up to date, right? But the thing is, at the end of the day, if one of those things fail and something is able to get through, you need to rely on having a robust backup system that can also be able to get you up and running in a timely manner, right? So it is two different points, right? You want to have the backup, you want to have the information saved, but you also want to be able to access and utilize that information as quickly as possible to get back up and running and to minimize your amount of downtime. In terms of stories that I've heard recently, just last week, there's a college in Chicago, a college by the name of Lincoln College. It was founded in like 1863, so it's been around forever. Last November, they got a ransomware attack, right? So that means that somebody sent somebody in the school something malicious. They opened it up and it pretty much encrypted everything, right? So at that point, the school can no longer hold classes. The school can no longer do anything in terms of their admission process. The school couldn't hand out grades. They couldn't. They had to suspend classes. Right? It took them about 5 months to get their systems back online. Right? But because they were off so for such a long period of time, they're actually closing the school next week for good. A school that's been around for hundreds of years, one cyber incident, right, where they didn't have a backup system that was able to be spun up in a quick manner, they now are out of business. And the kids who are in school now have to transfer to other schools. And it's just a snowball effect of different things that have happened because of this one ransomware situation. So, that showed up last week on my feed, and I was just like devastated for those kids, right? I was devastated for the alumni because that one incident happened.
All that lost data, if I was a student there, I would just tell them I already completed all my credits. How would it?
Yeah, right?
4.0. I was a 4.0 student.
Yeah.
Right, Patrick.
That's
Awesome.
great. Well, what I love about what Jason did, you validated the point that Patrick made about the significance of losing your everything and to the point of closure, which you had brought up. And the other thing is how does this merge with cybersecurity, right? I think you clearly pointed that out, right? If you're a victim of ransomware and you don't have a data backup, right, how are you going to restore, right? So great 2 points. I'm interested to see, Lauren, what Sagi's going to bring to the conversation next. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with what Jason and Patrick said. And, I think one thing that I would just caution people is to just not make assumptions. We've seen too many people making assumptions that they don't need certain things. And it just really comes down to just a lack of understanding. And this is really a habitual issue that just, is ongoing in IT as things get more complex. I'm using the cloud. I don't need backups because I'm on the cloud now. Or I moved all my email to Microsoft. Therefore, I have built-in backups and so on and so forth. And so in the realm of really backups and DR, we see a lot of this. We see people saying, I'm protected from ransomware because I have a managed security company. Or there's also a very big misunderstanding, and I think that Patrick alluded to this. There's a misunderstanding between backups and disaster recovery. These are really two separate sort of strategies that are there to achieve two separate goals. And so I think the best thing to do is kind of like demystify and make sure people don't have the wrong assumptions around what they have, because as Jason pointed out, I mean, that could be life or death, for a business. And talking about stories, and not to sell any more fear, but we had a customer who had local backups, and they had offsite backups, and you would assume, hey, we're in pretty good shape. But what's happening is the attackers are getting more sophisticated as well. They're actually attacking the backup servers. And if you're an attacker, it makes sense. Let me go and delete all the backups first, and then I'll ransomware. And we're actually seeing that. And so we had a customer who had that situation happen to them. All the backups were deleted. They were ransomwared. And part of our service is we actually air gap a copy of their backups on our side. And we were able to use that and restore their entire business. And, it's funny, like you hear about these interesting statistics, but for me, being on the other end of that phone call, and being able to help them, I mean, you know, it was awesome, you know, because they probably would have ended up like that school otherwise.
Just to jump in, when because some people were saying, well, I'm never going to get ransomware or this, that, the other, but people have been placing the value of backups before ransomware was a thing, right? When you can go to your computer and have a blue screen, right? When there was the blue screen of death, right? Or your computer doesn't boot up, or you had a power surge, right? So it's not just the cybersecurity aspect that we think about when we think about needing to have a backup. You should always just need or want to see the value in having a backup of any data, because anything could happen. Even if somebody walked into your place of business, put their hands on the server and walked out, you need to make sure that you have a copy of that data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to Matt's question, you know, in the realm of cybersecurity, the way I've always thought of it is, you know, you have proactive security monitoring, you have threat detection, threat prevention, threat hunting, all of these managed security providers. That's the proactive component. You know, think of it as almost like umbrella insurance for cybersecurity. You need proactive, you need detection, but none of these security solutions guarantee 100% that they're going to catch everything. So you must have the reactive component too. What do you do if something gets by? And you cannot have a complete cybersecurity strategy without both sides of that fence.
One of the things I think to point out is that Jason implied this, and I want to say it too, when it comes to recovery, right? It's one thing to be able to have a copy of your data and recover that data, but if that device has failed, right, there's a continuity. Now you've got to go either get a new device and reconfigure your device and customize the operating system. And one of the things I love about the products that Datto equips us with is the ability to take operational snapshots of these critical servers as well. And so we can have a hardware failure. And not only do we have a backup of our data, but within seconds and minutes, we can be operationally restored of the hardware, literally operating off of the same IP address and the same host name. And Sagi, I know that your team is a big Veeam shop, and we're a Veeam partner as well. And so we're glad to have you here. And we're going to, I think, in our second round of questioning, talk about the specific solutions that you guys are equipping TechOnPurpose and our clients with, and the probably same tools and tactics, Patrick, that your team is recommending for partners like TechOnPurpose every day. So all good stuff. Great introduction. Great start.
Sagi had kind of mentioned about, you know, where DR fits into the overall cybersecurity scheme of things. And I wanted to elaborate on that a little bit more. I believe in one of the previous episodes, we talked about the CIA triad in the cybersecurity world. We did that, right? Am I imagining things?
That rings a bell.
Okay. So when you're looking at it from a cybersecurity specialist perspective, right, they're typically looking at three of those components. And the CIA stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? The confidentiality side is exactly what Sagi was mentioning, and how we have to be proactive and make sure that we have the ability to keep that data encrypted and hidden from eyes that shouldn't be seeing it. The integrity side is for us to make sure that the data we are accessing, right, is the data that's supposed to be there. It hasn't been, adulterated in any sort of way, right? Changes were made without our permissions. And then the last part is the availability, which is really the integrity and the availability is kind of where the business continuity and disaster recovery solution really comes into play, especially on the availability side, because the availability is pretty self-explanatory. How do we ensure that the data that we need to access is always going to be up, right? And so when you look at it from that perspective, this is really where the BCDR conversation comes in cybersecurity.
Okay, so we're gonna start now talking about solutions. And I'm gonna have Jason, you can go first. What are Datto's solutions for server backups in BCDR? I know Matt mentioned something briefly a second ago, but can you go into a little bit more detail?
So in terms of Datto, we have a bunch of different solutions that will accommodate server backup. So whether you have servers that are virtual or physical on premise, or you're utilizing or accessing the Azure for your workloads, we have different levels of backups that can accommodate all of those different places where data is used. So regardless of which one of those places your data is kept, we have solutions which are able to accommodate that. What we do is we do what's called a full image-based backup. That means we're taking a backup of everything on that server that is going to be the operating system, your settings, all the different data, every single block level piece of information we are backing up. We're not only then keeping it on site, but we're actually sending it off site to our private data center. That private data center is utilizing the latest and greatest encryption, military grade, at that, to make sure that nobody has access to that data. We then also send that data to a secondary site to make sure that we have your data located in at least 3 different locations. And this adheres to the 3-2-1 rule. The 3-2-1 rule is just saying that, hey, we want to make sure that anytime you're doing a backup, it's located in 3 locations, right? 2 of those locations are different physical locations, and 1 of them is offsite. So we adhere to that 100%. But the beauty of our solution is that from that is on the backup side, but on the disaster recovery side, the side where you have to get back and running, we're able to actually virtualize or take that data and turn it into a live working computer so you can continue working in a quick manner, right? So we're talking about you could be down for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and you'll be able to get back up and running and not have that downtime, right? So I think the current cost of downtime is $8,000 per hour. Is the average, right? So if you're down for an hour, that's going to cost you $8,000. If you're down for a day, we're going to extrapolate that at 24 times 8 and whatever that number is. So you get back up and running as quickly as possible. And with our solution, we allow that to be done. We've been around for a while, and we've helped thousands of small and medium-sized businesses actually overcome any sort of attacks that they've had and be able to get back up and running and to save their business. As Peter mentioned earlier, when it's talk about people who don't have backup, and they get into an incident where they get ransomware or whatever the case may be, 90% don't exist within 12 months. So that is a true stat, and I've unfortunately seen the flip side that does ring true.
Hey, Jason, I'm curious. If I refer back to what Patrick said a minute ago, and we focus on the integrity side of the conversation, what is Datto doing to ensure that the integrity of that data is present from the moment it's being backed up into the moment it's being distributed from your appliances and into your various clouds?
Okay, yeah. So a couple of things are happening, right? So the first thing that is happening is that when a backup is taken, we actually have a couple different processes which run on the backup, right? And that's going to check to see if there's any sorts of ransomware that may exist within that data set. And if there is, we're going to actually alert you, right? Because we want you to know as quickly as possible so that there can be some measures done to actually remove that. The other things that we're doing is that we want to make sure that in the event of a disaster, that data is in a good position to be able to be booted up. So what we do is we do a screenshot verification, right? A screenshot verification is where we take that data, we boot it up, right? We wait till it actually allows us to log into that data, and then we take a snapshot of that. We then just send the snapshot to you, so you know that on this day at this time, this point is 100% is good. You don't have the fear of wondering whether it's going to work in the time of a disaster. Nice. I mentioned that we also make sure that we use AES 256 military grade encryption to make sure that the data is not accessible. We save our data in a read-only format, which is also very important. As Siggy said earlier, one of the things you have to worry about is people actually attacking the actual backup systems. And because we save everything in a read-only format, ransomwares and things of that nature don't have the ability to rewrite any of the information, so they can't get ransomware and things of that nature. So that's some of the big things that we do to prevent any sort of integrity issues locally. But also we have different things that we do in terms of multi-factor authentication to make sure the right people have access to your data that's in the cloud as well. So that's tons awesome. Of things that we do here at Datto.
That screenshot feature that Datto has is awesome. It's it's been around for so many years, and I'm just surprised that others haven't picked up on it. And what's great about it is this is all very emotional, right? Like this, you know, as we said before, this is people's livelihood. This is, you know, their business. And being able to see that and to actually see that it booted up, you know, in your inbox every day, I mean, that's got to put a lot of people's minds at ease. So that's so cool that you guys have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to take credit for it for inventing, but not
me.
that smart.
Yeah, Lauren had actually patented it years ago. So when she was
Little did y'all know.
I hope you get those royalties.
Right. Hey, listen, for our friends at Kaseya who are listening, don't jack up anything over here, guys. For those who haven't heard, right? Yeah. Yeah, there's a something going on there. But Jason, we're grateful for you and your products, and grateful for your contributions as always when you show up. So, Lauren, are we turning it over to Sagi?
Yeah, we are. Let's
Awesome.
dote on some Opti9 for a second.
Yeah.
The floor is all yours.
Oh boy. So, you know, what I would say is we're a managed provider, right? And you know, I think just like we were talking about before, is like kind of breaking down, you know, the different offerings. Really, you have technology that's out there. You have vendors who are creating amazing technologies, and then you have folks like Opti9 who are providing services. And so what we do is and there's no and people are using both to solve these challenges around business continuity and disaster recovery. And it really comes down to, you know, what is, as an IT organization or as a company, what is your appetite to take ownership and accountability of setting up these technologies, configuring them, monitoring them, managing, securing them. And again, there's no right or wrong. There's huge IT shops who have an appetite to manage that, and there's folks who would rather outsource that. And so that Opti9 does the latter. And you know, you really, I mean, the first thing you got to do is sit down and say, what do we want to actually be responsible for as an IT organization, and what do we want to outsource? And so we provide disaster recovery and offsite backups completely as a service. And what that means is that our customers are holding us accountable to an SLA, to a service level, that these things are working the way that they should. You know, they're not holding us accountable to so many terabytes of storage or gigabytes. When in regards to disaster recovery, we're going to promise that their data is not going to be any older than 15 minutes, and their entire environment will be back up and running within the hour of when they declare a disaster. And those are the primary deliverables. Honestly, everything else is just details. I would say also that in the realm of service providers, again, there's no right and wrong. You have very transactional providers, who's probably a mid-tier from what I was describing. And then you have ones that are very, you know, very customized. And we tend to lean more customized, and we tend to work with larger enterprises who have big environments, who have, you know, messy environments, who have skeletons in the closet and legacy IT. And you know what? That's just the reality, you know. If you need to, you know, replicate and preserve your, you know, your critical production systems, we have to cover all that. We can't ignore the old IBM server in the corner of your server room. We can't ignore your physical servers, you know. So when it comes to business continuity, backups, and disaster recovery, we cover the gamut. We cover all those platforms. You know, bring us your old, you know, your legacy systems, your messy. We'll find a way to protect it, because DR is all or nothing. And I think the other thing that we do is we help our customers with the strategy, right? It's replicating data is the easy part. When it comes to disaster recovery, that's easy. And tools like obviously Datto and Veeam and others, amazing technologies that will replicate all the data. I think the bigger question is, during an event, how are you going to consume it? How are you going to access it? How are your users going to access it? And honestly, that's more of a networking challenge. That's more of an integration challenge. How are they going to access it where it's not an exception to the security and network framework that you've already built? You know, and in general, cloud shouldn't be an exception. And so we work with that. We do a ton of network integration, and we, like I said, we're delivered as a service.
Sagi, that's a great overview, and we love the early stage of the partnership that we're talking with you guys about. And you know, this isn't just the only thing you do, by the way. And so I think it's probably important for folks to know that if you don't know much about Datto or Opti9, obviously we're here to help you. And Intelisys has a fantastic, and the team at Patrick have fantastic alternatives to all of these products, as well as experience with these products. And so, Lauren, are we in the last stage of our questions? We're going to let Patrick close us out. And then
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good.
Exactly.
I don't know that I'll save any other thoughts I have till the end. Patrick, I know that you were passionately wanting to make sure and connect the dots between the differences in business continuity and DR and backup. And so now might be a good time for that, or anything that you have to bolt on to what Sagi or Jason have shared with us.
Yeah, I mean, when Sagi started talking, I immediately I was chomping on the bit to try to flesh that out a little bit more, because he actually provided a fantastic segue, and he's absolutely right. The strategy side is huge, right? And on the intelligence side, alongside Matt and Lauren's team, when we're working with the customers, right, we have access to all these different technologies, data included, right, VM included. Everything that we've been talking about today is accessible. But one of the different things that collectively, what our team and Matt's team brings together is we are looking at a top down, from that side of the strategic conversation. Because going back to the whole business continuity versus disaster recovery conversation, disaster recovery to me is more of, hey, how do we restore our services, right? But the whole business continuity side is a much grander scheme of things, because when you're planning it out, right, ideally you want to sit down with your customer and say, hey, I know we have these technologies in place that we want to sell you, but let's actually talk through it. Let's understand the business impact, right? Do what's called a business impact analysis. How much impact, how much are you impacted as a customer if X, Y things happen, right? And then identify the critical areas of the business and the real potential high risk areas. And then from there, you develop then your DR plan. And in that DR plan, it's not just the technology, like Sagi said. It's also, what are the policies and procedures that we need to follow if the disaster happens, right? And it can also go beyond just servers and also technology, right? I used to work at a hospital long time ago, helping out. And some of the things that we were looking at was not just, are our applications up? It's also, where are our people, right? A disaster could be what they call a God type event. If there's a hurricane, right? Are we only worried about the applications, or are we worried about where our people are located? And then when that disaster happens, how do we know they're okay, right? So it can also encompass other areas. It can encompass communications. It can also encompass, the endpoint solution and the network, like Sagi said. Even if our servers can come back up really quickly, how do we get our employees and our users the ability to access the data that we're bringing back up, right? So those are all very important questions, and it's layered for sure. But as we know, security is all about layers, right? And sometimes it's all about talking with the customer, understanding, not just their appetite for risk per se, right? How much risk they're willing to incur, but often, and unfortunately, it also comes down to, what does their budget look like, right? They are the ones that are going to have to tell us, or tell you, hey, this is a big deal for us. So ransomware is a big deal, but maybe it's not that big of a deal if we can't call our employees, right? So they're willing to allocate and spend more money in certain areas than others. In the perfect world, we can get everything all layered on. We can sell everything. We can implement everything. But that's typically not the case, and that's where the strategic conversation really comes in handy. That's at least that's my opinion.
Yeah, I like the way that Sagi said it earlier. He said, like, what's your appetite for being able to handle things like this on your own, and what do you feel like is important to outsource to other people? So, very well said.
Yeah, what I love about that entire conversation, guys, and you only hit the tip of the iceberg, because you were talking about systems and safety of teams and availability of data and availability of tools, right? And then what you didn't talk about yet is, I know we have some healthcare clients that are there as well, and when their systems are not operational, they've got a patient sitting there waiting to receive services. How are you going to serve them if you can't look up their file, and all you have is the paper in front of you? You can't see that last test, and they're giving blood or they're taking blood or whatever it is that they're doing, right? How do you continue to do that? Because guess what, right? You're right, Patrick, that hurricane just hit. I'm going to focus on the blood folks for just a minute, right? They need a lot of blood. There's been a lot of people that have hurt. How can they continue to get blood to the people that need it if their systems are down, right? And so this whole conversation about strategy and BC in particular, business continuity, is absolutely more than an IT conversation, right?
It is.
And the beautiful thing is that we're here to help, and Patrick and his team and CD and Jason's got tools that help us with those kinds of things, and we can help you do that. So it's whether you're having that conversation with us or someone else, make sure you're having those conversations. Don't just back up your service and think that you've got business continuity, right? I think that was one of the points that you were making, Patrick. So
absolutely. You kind of summarized it a lot better than I did. Mine was probably a little bit verbose.
No, that's fabulous, man. I tell you, it takes a team, and each of us spark and feed off of each other. And hopefully, for our viewers and listeners, you guys are perceiving the importance and the critical component of why this is in our stack of 21 best security practices at TechOnPurpose, and it goes just beyond IT, right? We've had that conversation. So, Laura, I know you probably want to wrap us up and let everybody give a final word or two. I know that I'm going to say I'm exceptionally impressed.
Yeah.
In an industry that is overrun with acronyms, that we didn't introduce any of the 1,000 DR acronyms that are out there, like mean time to recovery and all of those things, ITO, and I can't even remember them all. There are so many just in the backup space. So guys, very way to keep it understandable for the viewing audience out there.
Yeah, for us little people down here.
Yeah, I love it. All right, Lauren, you got the wheel. Where are we going?
Okay. Does
Everybody
anybody
last words?
Yeah. Anybody have anything else they want to say before I close this out? You guys did great.
I would say one thing, right? And this is for the people who may be listening and like, but I'm small. I nobody's thinking about me in terms of sending me ransomware or making me click on a link. And what I would say is they don't care about your data. They care about how important your data is to you, right? It could be photos, it could be, all your transactions, whatever the case may be. It's all about how important it is to you, right? So just think of it in that way, right? And don't think of it as, somebody saying, let me go get this person who has dry cleaners, and nobody cares about what dry cleaners do. No, they care about what that data means to you.
Yep. And how they're going to get money from it. They're going to basically extort you for your data. And listen, the statistics are clear. SMBs are clear targets of ransomware, guys. It's not just the big guys.
And it's usually automatic. These are attacks that are happening automatically that they don't know you. It's transaction, it's business. In fact, a lot of these ransomware firms have live chat because they don't want to get a bad reputation that they're not unransomwaring you fast enough. Yeah, sad but true. But I would say, sometimes, I guess at the beginning, a lot of assumptions out there. We got to break through that. And if you think you have a DR strategy, or a business continuity strategy, that's great. But really ask yourself, if you were hit with ransomware next week and they wanted, you had two choices: pay $100,000 ransom, or hit the button on your DR strategy. What's less risky for you? And I think a lot of people, they have something, but they've never tested it. They've never used it. And so it's less risky to pay the money. And so obviously you want the DR strategy to be that less risky option. And if it's not, then you don't have a good enough strategy.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, I'll put my business hat on in closing and say, if your strategy is in your head, if your business continuity DR strategy is in your head, what happens if something happens to you? Guys, write down these processes, share them with other people, make sure folks know how to respond when what hits the what. All right, Lauren. Patrick, any final words?
I don't know if you guys remember one of the Batman movies where Michael Caine comes out and just says, some people just want to watch the world burn, right? And I think it's very appropriate here. It's a lot of times it is about money, and sometimes people just want to cause problems, and sometimes the disasters are even self-inflicted. You don't even know, right? Sometimes it is hardware, and that's where these DR solutions come in. We've been talking a lot about ransomware, but having a proper DR solution is there to address any type of disaster, not just security. And I think that's we got to remember that.
Good point.
Guys, thanks for your partnership. Thanks for all you do to help us and our clients keep our information. What is it? Accessible? What is
Confidential.
it? Confidential.
Integrity.
Integrity and availability. There we
Availability.
go. Right.
Yep.
Thank you,
Good job,
guys.
Matt.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Patrick, Sagi, Jason, thanks for joining Matt and I for episode 16 of our Who's in Your Cloud vlog series, where we're covering the 21 steps to secure, reliable, and trusted technology. As a reminder, you can and should check out all of our episodes on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify, or get them delivered straight to your inbox by signing up at techonpurpose.net/blog. To start a free trial from these solution partners you see here today, send us an email to freetrial@who'sinyour.cloud. And like Matt mentioned earlier in the video, sign up for that very important free cybersecurity risk assessment at who'sinyour.cloud. Next week, we're switching gears to managed detection and response. We'll be joined by some new top partners and some new cast members. So join us right back here next week, where we'll be meeting the gang and discussing all things MDR. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.